Welcome, friends, to another video of me talking about, of course, Spec Kit. And today I'm going to be breaking a cardinal rule of mine, because usually I talk about stuff that has already shipped, stuff that you can just go to the repo, click a couple buttons, and just download. And today I'm going to be talking about something that is currently gated behind a pull request. That's right, it's an unstaged change that is not yet in production. And I have a very, very good reason for it that I will explain. But before we get to that, I just want to call out this little thing here. Look at the number. 40.7 thousand people enjoy Spec Kit. I am so grateful to every single one of you for submitting your feedback, trying this out. This means the world to me. So thank you for that. Keep the feedback coming, keep the pull requests coming. I'm triaging them regularly, and we're getting faster at this. I know this. And I was talking about a PR here. So we have PR 986. It's a pull request in GitHub. It's again, all of this is in the open. You can take a look at exactly what it changes. So there's a few things that this PR introduces. By the way, I should mention that the branch naming is now much saner with Spec Kit. Remember how we had the problem of 001, I want to, and it's like an absolutely unhinged branch name. Like nobody should be using that as a branch name. We fixed that with the power of LLMs, because now you can actually get a short name that is representative of your prompt. So if you're building a podcast landing page, it's going to be something like 001 podcast landing. If you're building something like a feature that changes the checkout flow, it's going to be 002 checkout flow. Much better, much easier to parse. But there's another thing that this pull request introduces that I talk about here in screenshots, but I'd rather show you. So for this, we have Visual Studio Code Insiders, right? So Visual Studio Code Insiders, and I'm using Copilot. All the functionality pieces that I'm going to be describing today are specific to Copilot inside Visual Studio Code. This doesn't quite work with other agents because this is something that the Copilot folks introduced. But if you are downloading the Copilot version of the packages that we have here, by the way, because they're gated in the PR, you might be asking yourself, well, typically if I go to the repo, right, to my SpecKit repo, there is a SpecKit template. So you can just grab a template from here and just push it, right? Like into your project. You can just download, unzip the file, and just throw it in your project. Boom, done. Doesn't quite work like that because we have a PR here, right? And if we have a pull request with specific changes to templates, how do I modify these things? How do I grab them for myself? Well, the good news is if we go to the terminal here, I can run a script. You have a script here for you that does just that. It's called the create release packages. There's a PowerShell script, and there's also a shell script, and then you append the version. This can be anything. It doesn't matter because you're going to be running this locally, right? And what this will do is this will produce a number of local copies for every single agent of all the templates. So if you're iterating on your local branch, you can grab these templates. You can take a look here into, let's take a look at the gen releases. This is the folder, right? So we'll see that there's a bunch of folders and a bunch of zip files. These are what's used for the releases. So you can just grab the latest one here. So if you ever are cloning a branch, you can do this and just grab the latest, put in your project, and iterate and experiment with it. But anyway, that's not the point. So with this PR, you can actually use VS Code Insiders now to go and generate and copy the latest version of the templates, put it in your project. And then what you'll notice that now in the GitHub folder here, previously we only had prompts. Now we shifted to chat modes, right? So if we look here at these folders here, so the prompts, we have the prompt.md files. And this is how you know that they're prompts, right? Is because you generally have this suffix here, prompt.md, right? So they're still there, but now there's a chat modes file or set of files with a chat mode.md prefix, right? So you know for a fact that these are chat modes. And chat modes in this case act as almost like system prompts. We reorganized things a little bit where the stuff that previously was in a prompt is now inside a chat mode. So if we're going to look inside Spec Kit Analyze, the chat mode, it's exactly the same content that you saw before with the prompt. It's literally exactly the same. But you now trigger it through a chat mode, not a prompt. At the same time, switching chat modes is not exactly intuitive. Now, if I would have asked you right now, like, how do you switch a chat mode? You probably are thinking like, well, what the heck is a chat mode? Well, in VS Code, there's this functionality here at the very bottom of the screen here with this agent. See this? Agent? Like, you're typically operating in agent mode. A chat mode is just another agentic mode here. So what I can do is I can select this, and you'll quickly notice that now I have all the spec kit pieces, right? The stuff that is custom to my folder that I saw in chat modes. So there are now all these commands like specify, setting up the constitution, and the technical plan implementation. All this is captured as a chat mode. At the same time, the prompts are still available to you because there are shortcuts to you using the actual chat mode. So that's why you still have the suggested actions, right? So when you bootstrap a new project or a new chat session, you have the ability to say, oh, constitution, right, speckit constitution, static website with minimal dependencies. And I use this, by the way, as a demo because it's the fastest one that I can actually demo to you on this video without bogging you down with like 3 hours of iterating on specs. And notice that now it actually switched to speckit constitution, right? Like, it's automatically switched to the chat mode with the model that I'm using. I'm using GPT-5 Mini here. That's fine. And based on this, it's actually going to go and do the work, right? Like, it creates to-dos, which is a nice VS Code feature here. It's VS Code with Copilot. So it's going to go and do this, but it switched the chat mode. This is not just the functionality I'm going to be talking about, because as you'll see shortly, the chat mode itself is triggered by the prompt. So if I go here to my constitution prompt, you'll notice that all this prompt file is just a definition for the agent it's going to be using, speckit constitution. This is a hint for VS Code with Copilot to then go and say, oh, I get it. You're trying to use the constitution chat mode. So it's going to go and find the speckit constitution chat mode, which is this, and it's going to trigger and follow the steps defined in the constitution chat mode. That's what it's doing right now, right? And we see the files changing, all the stuff that you expected. Like, this is typical workflow here. Like, we've seen this many, many times. And I find this super nice because I can now encode a lot of these things in programmable, basically system prompts, if you will, not just prompts me like going in with like slash commands. There's another functionality here that is really, really cool that is currently in VS Code Insiders. And thank you to Harold Kirshner, who was guiding me through a lot of this stuff. But now, if you've spotted here something in this file, it's hard to spot because there's no formatting because it says agent. We're going to change it to markdown. Handoffs. This is what I wanted to actually talk about today. So like, if we look here, you'll notice that there's now this YAML front matter that's called handoffs. And notice that it says there's a label for it, there's an agent, and there's a prompt. A handoff is a very nice way to tell the agent that once you complete this task, once you complete the prompt that you're doing here now, your next step is to allow the user to go and do other things. In this case, after I do the constitution, I need to go and write the spec. So I'm going to be using the specify command, right? Or the specify chat mode, because that's what we switched to here. So what's going to happen with the chat mode here is you'll see that once it actually completes the iteration on our constitution, once it actually completes the work, it's going to allow me to intuitively see the suggestions that I need to follow to go to the next step. Because one of the most annoying pieces for me when I'm in the middle of the process, when I finish a prompt, right? Because sometimes it can take some time, like it'll run for 5-10 minutes, whatever. And then I come back and I'm like, wait, am I on a spec step? Am I on a plan step? I have to go look through the folder. But when there's a handoff, I can instantly tell, oh, it just finished the constitution. Now I can go to the spec. Oh, we just finished the plan. Now I can go break this down into tasks, right? So a lot of the stuff is automatically now encoded into the UX of VS Code. So for me, intuitively, I can go in and start making these changes and update them automatically and kind of start going through the flow without me losing track of where in the flow I am. Also, it reduces the amount of clicking that I have to do, right? Because like you'll notice that the same thing here is like I have my handoffs for the constitution, but for example, for specify, once I get to the spec, you'll notice that I have two handoffs. And again, we're going to change the formatting here to markdown because I like formatted text. We're just going to minimize this just a little bit. And you'll notice here that I have two handoffs, right? So when I finish the spec, I can go through the plan steps, or I can ask for clarification. And there's an important distinction here for the fact that, like, when I click build technical plan, you'll see this in action shortly. It will not automatically send the prompt because I still need to provide input. Notice that I am building with right here because I need to provide the context. I can't just have the agent go and do the technical plan for me. When I do things like clarify, I can actually have the agent just jump right into the clarification steps. And that's why it has this send true option here that is going to automatically send this prompt whenever I click the button. And we'll see how this lights up in the UX. So notice now that the spec, or not the spec, the constitution is done. And it says proceed from SpecKit constitution. It gives you the next step, build specification. Great. This is wonderful. Like, I now have this one hint, just one hint for how to do the next thing, right? Like, I can just click build specification and notice what's going to happen. Build specification. It switched to chat mode automatically when I clicked it to specify, because it's now going to be using the specify prompt, the specify system prompt, and the specify chat mode. And I want to build, and here I'm just going to say podcast landing page. Still the same model, right? Still the same chat mode that I just switched to with one click of a button. I did not have to go and do custom slash commands or anything like that. I'm just going to just do this. And we're going to say, yes, this is fine. Podcast landing page. And now it should kick in. But notice that also, while it's going to be doing all this stuff, now I have the next steps available for me as well. These are the handoffs, right? So from SpecKit specify, once I'm done, I can just build a technical plan, which is, of course, I want to do that after the spec is done, or I can clarify the spec requirements, which is your typical clarify command that you saw. So VS Code actually makes this much smoother because I can go through the process. I can just click a button, type in, click a button, type in. I don't need to go and guess what is the next step. What are the commands that I should be running? So for you, given the fact that we now have like a bit of a command sprawl here, and I know this, yes, I know it can be a little bit annoying that there's like all these commands. There's clarify, there's analyze, there's plan, there is implement, there's tasks, and you have to keep track of all of them. This functionality in VS Code is going to make it a little bit easier because now you can look at this, you can look at the handoff, you can look at the button, and you can just click on it. And that's it. So VS Code plus Copilot plus Spec Kit, I think this is going to be a very, very cool feature that we're very excited to see it roll out. Now, the reason this is in the pull request right now is because this is now in VS Code Insiders. This is not yet available in production VS Code. I'm going to bet that we're going to merge this and keep it iterative because it doesn't necessarily break anything, right? The handoffs are just not a thing in the production builds of VS Code yet, but they will be. And when they will be, the buttons will light up. But just the switching itself is going to be a little bit more manual, and you have to use the slash commands in the meantime. But once it's there, you can, by the way, again, you can use the VS Code Insiders. You can generate the templates the way that I showed you, and it's just going to work. So it's going to be a little bit of an easier process. Stay tuned for updates to VS Code when this is going to be integrated in kind of the production builds. And I'm eager to hear your feedback about Spec Kit and what we can do to make your experience even better. Especially because, again, from a developer perspective, I'm all for making things easier, smoother, simplify, so you don't have to think about which commands to run and when. So your feedback, very appreciated. Go to github.com/github/spec-kit and give me your input. All the feedback, like what works, what doesn't work. We're always happy to hear it. So thank you, and I will see you in the next one.